The U.S. China Tariff War is hitting hard, pushing giants like Foxconn and Apple to pull their supply chains out of China. Jobs are vanishing, leaving millions unemployed. Chinese business owners cry out in distress. Foreign trade companies are being forced to shift to domestic sales, slashing prices to rock bottom, but still, no one is buying. Tensions continue to rise. Hundreds of Chinese students studying in the U.S. suddenly have their visas canceled. Secretary Rubio declares there is no place for those seeking to undermine America. A wave of poverty is sweeping China in 2025, spelling doom for the middle class. The job market is so brutal that even international students are struggling to survive. Rat people become the latest social media phenomenon in China, reflecting the lying flat lifestyle of a disillusioned generation. A chilling wave of leukemia cases and sudden deaths is sweeping across China. Welcome to New Century, where facts matter and every story is told with integrity. The U.S. China Tariff War is hitting hard, pushing giants like Foxconn and Apple to pull their supply chains out of China. Jobs are vanishing, leaving millions unemployed. Let's unpack the devastating ripple effects tearing through China's economy. The U.S. China Tariff War is sparking a domino effect, hitting every sector hard. Not only are local Chinese companies struggling to survive, but foreign firms are racing for the exits. At the end of the line, it's the workers who are suffering, grappling with widespread unemployment and hardship. Let's take a closer look at what's happening on the ground. A blogger cried out online, "It hasn't even been 2 days, and it stopped again. Foxconn has halted operations once more. With the current international situation, we're almost out of work, with no shifts to take. Family, friends. This year's situation isn't looking optimistic." The tariff storm is battering every industry. Many factory teams have slammed the brakes on hiring. The blogger pleaded, "If you have stable work, I hope workers can hold steady. That's the most important thing. Don't rush to squeeze into Longha Foxcon now." This tariff war has slashed orders, with many departments seeing their workloads cut in half or drying up completely. The past 2 years of pandemic lockdowns already weakened companies. Now tariffs are drying up orders even more, especially for electronics firms and those tied to the U.S. market. Big players like Foxconn and Apple are racing to exit China. Netizens report Zhengzhou Foxconn is halting production and hiring on and off. Some have filmed trucks loaded with equipment leaving factories. The Washington Post visited Yiwu in mid-January and found Foxconn's hiring center nearly deserted. A local labor agent said Foxconn's cutting back in Zhengzhou as it moves production lines out of China. Nikkei Asia reported on April 14th that Apple is seizing a 90-day tariff grace period to fast-track the transfer of key supply chains to India and Vietnam, ramping up overseas factory capacity. But Beijing is fighting back, tightening customs inspections to slow the exodus. Orders have been cut by more than half. Workers are losing overtime, with some departments now stuck on a 5-day, 8-hour schedule, offering little to no extra hours. Ordinary workers earning 3,500 yuan a month, roughly $480, have lost the chance to boost their income with overtime. Another blogger warned, "Longha Foxcon's basically stopped hiring. If Foxconn pulls out of the port area, 200,000 jobs could vanish directly, 300,000 indirectly. Nearby supermarkets, vendors, and stalls would see 80% shutdown, since most customers are Foxconn workers. The port's real estate market would tank too." Recently, a netizen named Xiao Qiang shared a video claiming Wuhan Foxconn is moving machines daily, nearly emptying out. Another, Qian Xing, reported that Chengdu Foxconn's workshops have little to do, with equipment being shipped out constantly. A netizen called Work Can Eat posted a video showing Longhua Foxconn with large trucks hauling equipment abroad for factory investments. Another netizen at Wuhan Foxconn's Fulian Tech Gate said machines are being moved out, with nearly 300 units shipped in a month, just a tenth of the total. Workers are leaving in waves too, and it's unclear if all machines and staff will be gone by May. A Shanghai netizen revealed Shanghai Songjiang Foxconn has shut down, its dorms now empty. At its peak, Shanghai Foxconn employed up to 60,000 workers, but now it's overgrown with weeds, carrying the memories of so many from the 80s and 90s. As Apple's biggest global contract manufacturer, Foxconn's moves mirror Apple's plans. Its ongoing relocations in Wuhan and Shenzhen show Apple's shifting production to India and Vietnam. A manager from another major Apple supplier confirmed Apple's speeding up efforts to diversify away from China, even eyeing component production in Thailand. But Beijing's pushing back, tightening customs inspections to block equipment transfers. Sources say these strict checks have stalled shipments for months. Meanwhile, U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods have surged as high as 245%, dealing a severe blow to foreign trade and impacting nearly every industry. China's economy is now facing a cliff-like collapse, with the tariff war directly driving countless businesses into bankruptcy. Foreign trade firms have pivoted to domestic markets. Major brands are selling at a fraction of their original prices. One business owner lamented, "I still have a lot of inventory in my warehouse, all mulberry silk. You can take it for a double-digit price. I just came back from the Canton Fair, and I didn't meet a single American client today. Without American or European clients, where do we sell our high-end products? I stood there all day, and I feel like we're really done this time." Look, a whole warehouse of export goods is now for domestic sale. Items that used to sell for 1 or 200 are now just over 10 yuan in my live stream, with free shipping. With U.S. orders halted, the backlog of goods is causing cash flow difficulties for factories. One person remarked, "I never imagined Kunshan's top enterprise would stop hiring. The company behind me, once it stops, it means the entire Kunshan coal yard is done. You can see how bad this year's market is." One analyst explained the situation. Now, many people are drifting outside, and many who stayed haven't found work. They're not picky, they just want something stable that pays. But now there are people everywhere. Some have been looking for a month without finding a job. While we shout about winning and holding on, companies with large inventories waiting for export are struggling. They're wondering what to do with the goods piling up in their warehouses. Currently, we have a trade surplus, while the U.S. has a trade deficit. This means we're mainly the sellers, and the U.S. is mainly the buyer. They hold the money. That's the first basic fact. Even before the U.S. imposed tariffs, we were already in a state of overcapacity. Despite our 1.4 billion population, we're primarily a manufacturing powerhouse, not a consumption one. Our capacity was already excessive before tariffs, and we were trying to stimulate consumption. Analysts say the tariff war reveals the tragedy of Chinese people under Communist Party rule. All of China is like a sweatshop. Chinese people produce vast amounts of goods but can't consume them themselves. A tremendous irony and China's sorrow. One blogger noted that export manufacturers are fighting to survive, with high tariffs tangibly affecting their company. Since the start of this year, some of our U.S. clients have been constantly negotiating costs with us. Sometimes I think our company is quite vulnerable. When a client comes and says they have an order for 10 million units, clearly from Europe or the U.S., they give you a target price and ask if you can do it. I think factories are in a weak position. Why? They have countless options. Though they're sourcing from Chinese suppliers, whether it's supplier A, B, C, or D, you don't know. And A, B, C, and D have to compete and undercut each other. In the end, who's affected? It's us. And who do we affect? To secure orders and cut costs, we squeeze our upstream supply chain, material suppliers. China's cutthroat market is a buyer's market, not a seller's one, because of overcapacity. Every factory is now engaged in this race to the bottom. The blogger continued, "We have no profit, the supply chain has no profit, and in this process, even our employee benefits are reduced. It's a painful process, and that's the reality." Many say, "What does this have to do with me?" But when employees have no money, the supply chain has no money, and bosses have no money. They don't spend. They don't travel, eat out, buy clothes, or consume. This affects every corner of society. How does a vast country manage to make every age group so exhausted? Children have no childhood. Teenagers have no youth. Adults have no jobs. Middle-aged people have no happiness. And the elderly have no social security. Wang He, a China expert at the Epoch Times, emphasized that the Communist Party operates a predatory economic system. Its development goal isn't to enrich the people or improve their lives, but to exploit them, keeping the nation rich and the people weak. A normal country, like the U.S., would aim for a strong nation and strong people with wealth stored in every household. The Communist Party's economic, political, and social systems are designed to keep resources controlled by the state, which acts as the biggest manipulator and monopolist. Now let's turn to another major story grabbing attention. Tensions continue to rise. Hundreds of Chinese students studying in the U.S. suddenly have their visas canceled. Secretary Rubio declares, "There is no place for those seeking to undermine America." According to recent media reports, court documents, attorney statements, and university announcements across the United States, the U.S. government has revoked the visas of 529 students, faculty, and researchers from 88 colleges and universities. 4 Chinese students from the University of California, Berkeley, and Carnegie Mellon University are fighting back. Their attorney, Zhuge Liang, revealed that on April 11th they filed a lawsuit in a California federal district court. They accused the U.S. government of terminating their visa status without notice, hearings, or evidence, leaning on vague national security concerns and even citing dismissed traffic tickets or family disputes as reasons. On the evening of April 14th, the U.S. Embassy in China's official Weibo account posted on X, quoting recent remarks by Secretary of State Rubio in Chinese. The post emphasized that a U.S. visa is a privilege, not a right, reserved for those who strengthen America, not those trying to tear it down from within. Rubio, speaking on Fox News on April 12th, doubled down, saying U.S. law clearly defines who can and cannot enter the country. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, anyone supporting or promoting terrorist activities, encouraging others to back terrorism, or endorsing terrorist organizations is barred from U.S. visas. Rubio stressed that the act also gives the U.S. the power to revoke visas, a critical tool for protecting national security and safeguarding American citizens and lawful visitors. He underscored that the Trump administration's commitment to security and immigration enforcement is unmatched, unbiased, and unwavering. The law demands that visa holders prove their eligibility every single day of their visa's validity, which means respecting U.S. laws, acting in line with their visa type, and meeting these standards throughout their stay. The Chinese Communist Party has long engaged in deep, pervasive infiltration of the United States, especially by manipulating and co-opting American political spheres, causing significant harm to U.S. society. Many Chinese students, scholars, experts, and academics have acted as spies or agents for the party. The Communist Party once ran a 1,000 talents plan in the U.S. to recruit, bribe, influence, and control Chinese scholars, forcing them to serve its interests. This has been going on for years, and growing evidence suggests some Chinese students in the U.S. have been involved in supporting terrorist activities. These historical patterns are likely driving the Trump administration's push to address national security threats. In March, Representative Molinar, chair of the U.S. House Select Committee on Strategic Competition with the Chinese Communist Party, sent letters to 6 top U.S. universities. He demanded information by April 1st about Chinese international students, including their previous universities, tuition funding sources, and the research and university projects they're involved in. Molinar warned that the party has built a systematic pipeline to place researchers in major U.S. institutions, giving them direct access to sensitive dual-use military and civilian technologies. He called the U.S. student visa system Beijing's Trojan horse, arguing that if left unchecked, it will keep displacing American talent, undermining research integrity and fueling the party's technological ambitions at America's expense. Lai Jianping, a former Beijing lawyer and chair of Civil Affairs Canada, weighed in, saying some Chinese individuals do act as spies in the U.S., stealing intellectual property and academic achievements, posing a clear national security risk. He noted that the U.S. government has the sovereign authority to deny visas to any Chinese individual or even cut diplomatic ties with the Communist Party. But Lai also cautioned that not every Chinese person is a spy. He offered advice to Chinese students to avoid visa cancellations. For Chinese visa holders in the U.S., the first thing is to follow local customs and abide by the law. You cannot engage in fraud, crime, or actions that harm the U.S. or its national security, or make radical statements that upset Americans. If you're studying or doing research in the U.S., try to avoid frequent border crossings, as this could easily lead to suspicions of ulterior motives. Staying put reduces this risk. Lastly, I believe it's best to blend in with Americans, align with the country's values and systems, and maintain harmonious relationships with those around you. This will also reduce the likelihood of visa cancellation. A wave of poverty is sweeping China in 2025, spelling doom for the middle class. The job market is so brutal that even international students are struggling to survive. One expert didn't hold back, saying, "In 2025, the middle class in China is truly finished." The decline in real estate, the collapse of wealth management products, and the economic downturn in recent years have caused the value of assets held by the middle class to plummet continuously, leaving us in great distress. The expert added that the entrepreneurial boom in the tech sector over the past few years, combined with the pandemic's fallout and a punishing business environment, has hit the middle class hard. This economic slump is fueling sky-high youth unemployment. Official data from the Chinese Communist Party shows the unemployment rate for non-student youth climbed to 16.9% in February, rising for 2 straight months. The national urban unemployment rate hit 5.4%, the highest in 2 years. Experts warn that if you count those relying on their parents, the real unemployment rate could be as staggering as 50%. The job market for returnees is downright terrifying. Take one student, a recent master's graduate from the University of Manchester in a high-demand field, who returned to China last year. From September to December, he applied to dozens of jobs, tirelessly submitting resumes, taking tests, navigating multiple rounds of assessments, group discussions, and tasks. Out of over 30 applications, only about 3 made it to final interviews, and he's expecting maybe 1 or 2 job offers at best. In today's China, many overseas degrees have lost their shine. The job market is cutthroat, with returnees competing against graduates from elite domestic universities like Peking, Tsinghua, and Fudan. The pressure is crushing. One blogger warned, "Ordinary graduates don't come back to China." The blogger broke down 3 major hurdles. First, overseas work experience is now a liability. China's industries have developed their own systems, which rarely mesh with foreign work practices. Second, the domestic workplace culture is grueling. You can't turn off your phone after 7 p.m. or expect weekends off, with WeChat demanding 24/7 availability. Overtime pay exists but needs approval, and Chinese companies often show little respect for personal boundaries. Third, relentless competition breeds industries that seem intense but lack logic, obsessing over exploiting cheap labor and outpacing rivals. Tactics like buying traffic for viral marketing, issuing coupons, and waging price wars dominate. This wrecks the ecosystem as consumers get hooked on cheap deals but lose out when the system collapses. The blogger asked, who benefits when everything is ruined? This brutal competition is pushing many to dream of escaping China's suffocating environment. On top of that, intense government controls are spurring people to plan their exit. Yi Yi, a Beijing film industry worker, was questioned by police in late 2022 for joining the White Paper movement, and some of his friends were detained. Since then, he's been plotting to leave the country, aiming to immigrate. Amid political repression, economic decline, and soaring youth unemployment, some returnees desperate to flee China say they've noticed the Communist Party tightening exit controls. Western countries are also growing less welcoming toward China, narrowing the window to leave. As a result, these returnees are focused on getting out quickly, without being choosy about which country they go to or which university they attend. Rat people become the latest social media phenomenon in China, reflecting the lying flat lifestyle of a disillusioned generation. The term rat people has exploded across social media platforms in mainland China, describing those who live like rats, curled up in a small corner all day long. This lifestyle has struck a deep chord with countless young people, sparking massive buzz on Weibo. According to Bloomberg, the rat people lifestyle trend is surging in popularity on Chinese social media. Young people are posting videos showcasing their daily routines, staying indoors, skipping work, and lounging in bed all day. On Weibo, rat people topics have racked up tens of millions of views. One viral video features a young woman laying out her rat people routine, waking up at 11:20 a.m., grabbing takeout at 1:20 p.m., napping again at 2 p.m., ordering milk tea in the evening, feeding her cat, and heading back to bed. At night, she eats dinner, binges dramas, and crashes at 2:30 a.m. At the video's end, she beams, "How can a person be this happy?" This trend builds on China's lying flat culture, a bold rejection of grueling overwork and cutthroat social competition. With the economy slowing and youth unemployment soaring, many are turning their backs on the relentless striver mindset, opting instead for a passive, burnout-fueled way of life. An online commentator pointed out that low-energy rat people vlogs are overtaking the once dominant, high-energy, aspirational content on social platforms. Influencers on Douyin and Xiaohongshu, like Jiawen Cixi and Xingfu Shulu, are amassing huge followings by embracing the rat people label. Some of their posts have scored over 400,000 likes, with comment sections overflowing with users declaring, "This is real life." The trend is even opening up commercial avenues. A cartoon character called Big Rat, created by illustrator Sugar Senbei, has become the unofficial mascot, driving demand for merchandise. Brand collaborations have rolled out plush toys, keychains, and pillows, with sales topping 1 million yuan. Some items are already sold out. Rat people are defined by 3 key traits. They're active at night, but sluggish during the day with energy spiking after dark. They live in confined spaces but stay alert to sudden events. And they practice minimal effort socializing, favoring online chats over crowded gatherings. Beneath the playful humor, the rat people label reveals deeper emotional struggles, feelings of helplessness and anxiety about the real world. For many young people, calling themselves rat people is a half-joking way to express a conflicted mindset, surrendering to despair while still holding on to a flicker of hope for change. A chilling wave of leukemia cases and sudden deaths is sweeping across China. Let's unpack this alarming trend shaking communities across China. Widespread reports suggest a sharp spike in leukemia cases and unexpected deaths, which many believe are tied to the Chinese Communist Party's aggressive vaccination campaign during its strict lockdown period. Viral videos circulating online paint a grim picture, showing overwhelmed hospital hematology wards and a troubling rise in cases, particularly among children. The Red Cross Foundation of China reports a staggering 4 million leukemia patients nationwide, with 30,000 to 40,000 new cases each year, and children accounting for half of those affected. Across provinces, online users are sharing gut-wrenching stories of loved ones passing away just days or weeks after a leukemia diagnosis. Many blame the vaccines, describing financial devastation and emotional exhaustion from the crushing costs of treatment. Right now, a petition representing nearly 3,000 post-vaccination leukemia cases was prepared for China's 2 sessions in March 2024, calling for a compensation fund. But organizers claim they faced heavy surveillance and were blocked from submitting it. Residents are also noticing a disturbing uptick in funeral home activity. A viral video on the Ganjing World platform features a woman from northeastern China who's familiar with funeral home operations. She says more people are dying now than at the start of the pandemic. According to her, the surge in deaths stems from vaccine side effects. People are dying from heart attacks, strokes, some from cardiac complications, and even conditions like AIDS and leukemia. Thank you for watching New Century. If thoughtful, independent journalism matters to you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and be part of the conversation. Until next time, stay informed and take care.